Welcome to What Drives Us, episode 129. It is February 25th at 9 p.m. or 9:12 p.m. Our apologies. And we are broadcasting live over on Google Plus and YouTube. So thanks for all of our viewers this week. Hello.
Hi, viewers.
Hi, viewers.
I'm joined not only by our wonderful viewers out in Videoland, but also by my co-host, Mr. Russell Frost.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us on Google Plus Hangouts on Air. Is that the whole nomenclature? Did I get it all?
Please be official.
Google Plus Hangouts on Air. What drives us 129? Yay! And I'm gonna say nice to see you, Danny. Nice to see everybody, and I'll let Danny introduce this week's panel.
I'm excited. We're supposed to get like 10 inches of snow tonight here in Charlotte, which means I will not live to see the morning.
I'm sorry, 10?
Yeah, that's what they're calling for.
10?
Yeah.
Seriously?
That's a lot of snow where I live.
A friend of mine posted that earlier. She's in Charlotte, but she's not from Charlotte, and I thought, oh, she's just crazy.
Oh, no, it's actually, 10.
And
it's like 8 to 10, so we'll see what ends up happening.
That's bad.
Right now it's like raining, so that's probably all we'll get.
If you're lucky, or then it'll all turn into ice tonight, and woohoo, slippy slidey.
Yay, fun.
Yeah.
Nice for 3 days. Well, Russell, we're very excited to be joined this week by three wonderful, knowledgeable gentlemen, one of which is coming to us live from his shop in Boulder, Colorado, and that's Paul Guzik.
Hey, everybody. It's good to be back, and it's snowing here, too. So last time I looked out the window, we had about 6 inches of snow, and probably after the podcast, about 10. So lots of fun.
What will you drive home in that? Will you drive home a first gen?
Gen 2 Prius with snow tires, which, contrary to popular opinion, if you put real snow tires on a Prius, it's a damn fine winter car. All seasons suck, but real snow tires are great.
All the more reason not that I've been poo-pooing all along these ideas of having an all-wheel drive Prius.
I don't think it's required, but people feel good about buying it. That's why Subaru is the #1 selling car in Colorado.
It's like the third row seat thing. They want it, but they may never use it.
Right.
And are they willing to give up what comes with it? But anyway, that's probably a whole podcast.
Yeah.
We're also joined by the doctor. He's in the house. It's Dr. Evan Fusco.
Hey, everybody. Good to be here again this week. I was running a little late, but you get me post 4-mile run, this is how I look. It's what you get.
Good.
Wait, when did you start running?
A couple months ago.
From what?
Well, it's so my son's a runner.
Right.
And I have to drive him to his track practice, so I could sit in my car and get fatter and lazier and more deconditioned playing on my iPhone, or I could get my butt out of the car and run. So I've been.
Hang on, don't you have a giant iPad in your car you could play with?
That's another story. I'm also teaching my children to drive, and they are not learning to drive in my Tesla. They are learning to drive in the Gen 2 Prius. So I don't even have my giant iPad in my Gen 2 Prius.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So
I was going to make a range type of joke, but it wrote itself. Sorry. And our third member of the panel this evening is, I'm going to call you the Terminator tonight.
Wow.
Patrick Connor.
Yeah, that's my sister's boyfriend, not me. No. Hello from Oregon, where we're having nice spring-like weather. You guys are talking about snow. It is beautiful here. And for my Oregon trivia, we are also home to the only light rail pedestrian bridge in the U.S. It's called the Tillicum Crossing, which is a local tribal language for the Bridge of the People.
A light rail pedestrian bridge.
You're saying it's a combination of light rail and pedestrian?
Exactly, yeah. So it has bike lanes, walking lanes, and tracks for our light rail called MAX, or there's also a streetcar that can go across it, I think.
Cool.
So I was picturing people on those train cars that like you got one person on each side and they're pushing the thing up and down.
Yeah, pedestrian trains. That's how it works. Yeah, it's low carbon emission that way.
That's so Portland when you think about it.
That's a Portlandia episode right there.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
Exactly. Have you seen the new light rail?
Well, speaking of ridiculous things, Patrick, why don't you kick us off with a 2-minute topic tonight? It's a good one. And those of you listening out in the video, in the live stream, turn on the Showcase app, and you'll be able to follow along with the articles that we're showing tonight. We'll put them up in the Showcase while we're talking about them, and then pull them down and show the next article.
Okay. My 2-minute topic this week is from Inside EVs, and this is a car that we've got a lot of mileage out of, pun intended. It is a Fisker story. You might have heard that Fisker was bought out of bankruptcy by Wang Zhan, or however you pronounce it. I'm sure I'm getting it wrong. And that they have just announced that they are going to re-release the Karma in 2016. So I'm pretty skeptical of this, to say the least, especially since the assembly line where it's made has just been torn down. Yeah,
you see that as an obstacle for some reason.
Just a little one, yeah. The story details how they had it sitting in mothballs, this assembly line, for a year, hoping the car would come back so they could start making it again, and there were promises and promises, and eventually the company that it's subcontracted to just gave up and said, no, we're tearing that assembly line down.
Wow.
This is the Norwegian company, right?
They're going to rename the car. What is the name? Elux?
Elux, yeah.
Yeah, however you say it. And I don't know where the parent company is from.
Electrolux.
It sucks.
It does sound like a vacuum.
Okay. So a quick poll. Does anybody on the panel think that this car is actually ever going to see daylight?
Ever? Maybe?
I'll say no for 2016.
No.
Not 2016. Ever? Maybe.
Here's my question: is this?
It's going to come right after the Coda version 2.
Yeah. Really cool looking this time.
I want an Aptera.
Which will be right after the EV1 comes back out for GM.
And it's going to have a better place swappable battery pack.
What I can't figure out is so it's a Chinese company that bought it, correct?
Right.
Yeah, Wang Zhang.
So are they still going to try to sell this in America, or are they going to try to sell this in Japan? Because I think Tesla has already seen how hard it is to sell EVs in Japan. Or I'm sorry, not Japan, China.
Yeah, this doesn't seem like a car that would do well in China.
It doesn't seem like a car that would really do well anywhere.
Oh, but they're going to raise the price.
It's
going to be
the production
20%
to
higher.
the Harbor Freight tool factory, and they're going to make it out of the same components.
That was, I mean, I don't want to blow a 2-minute topic into a 10-minute topic, but that was the thing that I don't get. Just remaking the same crappy car that had so many problems was going to be beneficial for who? Who would want to buy it? Why would they do?
It looks pretty, Russell.
It looks gorgeous. Enough? Well, I guess if you've got $120,000 for a doorstop in your driveway, why not? No. You get the babe from the commercial to come over with the ice cube and stroke your Elux Karma.
It's just still such a sad vehicle because, man, it's really designed well.
Right, but being a good designer obviously does not equate to being a good businessman or someone whose ego didn't get in his own way.
Well, and the biggest problem was that it was a piece of crap mechanically, right?
They had some problems, yes.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what. Next, let's go to Evan. Evan, you're going to tell us tonight about a topic that we're all very interested in because we're all potential buyers of this. We're very interested in purchasing, and that is the Toyota Mirai.
Yeah, so Jalopnik of all the reliable auto sources, aka the Fox News of auto news. They may have actually nailed it today with this story about the Mirai and how it's built, and somehow the geniuses at Toyota marketing sent out these videos of a Mirai being hand built, showing the entirety of the process, basically, or at least the major steps in the process of constructing one of these vehicles. And while it's fascinating from a technical side to watch all the pieces kind of come together and be put into place, it's a little pitiful, in my opinion, to watch that they're literally building these by hand, and they look like technological nightmares. There are so many pieces and parts and components to this thing to make it run. You look at the elegant simplicity of an EV, any battery EV. It doesn't have to be a Tesla, anything, compared to this thing, and you just go, it's a nightmare on wheels, and it just makes me worry about how many things could potentially go wrong with this in the initial rollout. I think it's a bit of a marketing fail on Toyota's part in putting this thing together. But it's fascinating to watch the videos.
They summed it up pretty well with that GIF at the top of the headline article, too.
Yeah, I think so.
It's like, two guys, like, screwing stuff in and lifting a drivetrain.
And I'm still can't, even I don't know how those two big tanks fit into that thing and leave room for humans.
Well, what's interesting is that it's done. It's in the same factory that they constructed the LFA, right?
Right.
And Russell, Evan, and I have all sat in the Mirai, and the Mirai doesn't exactly feel like a hand-produced vehicle.
It doesn't have that Rolls-Royce door click.
Not quite.
I don't.
Camry click.
I don't. I mean, and I'm picking on I shouldn't pick on the car because I don't think the car, like, looks-wise or anything's that bad. But yeah, it doesn't have that 100,000 tiny hand tool pieces smell. No.
Yeah. So let's see. It takes.
It's bold like the Camry, though.
13 workers a full day to build 3 cars.
Wow.
Well, since that's how many they're going to ship, that's probably plenty.
I mean, wow. So they've got production for the next 3 weeks, and then what are they going to do?
I was about to say, when they tell people that they're upping production, those 13 people are like, oh shit.
They're going to have to put a second team on. That's 6 people working on the Mirai line, kid.
It's like, what are you interviewing for today? Oh, I'm thinking about working on the Mirai line. Oh.
And exactly how many filling stations are there in the country? Like 6?
Oh, there's something
right now?
like that in California.
Yeah. I've only ever seen 1, but supposedly there are 6 in Southern California. Supposedly.
And this is one of those cars that is going to catch on faster in Japan because the government has kind of decided that hydrogen is going to be a big energy source for that country going forward.
Well,
and Japan is the size of a postage stamp.
Yes.
In Japan, 6 filling stations covers the entire island.
Exactly.
I mean, if that's what you're thinking about, it looks like a great solution. In the U.S., it's a little bit different.
Well, and at 3 cars a day, there won't be any lines anytime soon.
Right.
Free fuel for life.
Yay. Our third 2-minute topic is from Mr. Paul Guzik, and it is appropriately Prius-based. Well, we assume it's Prius-based, and it's a little bit funny. Paul, why don't you tell him more?
Yeah, well, As a lot of people know, older Priuses are getting tired, and many of them are ready for a replacement hybrid battery. Well, it turns out there are reports coming in from San Francisco, Sacramento, Queens, New York, that thieves are now stealing hybrid batteries out of Priuses. And it's a lot easier than stealing a catalytic converter or stealing the radio. A good thief could probably get a battery out of a car in about 4 minutes, and they smash the window, grab it, butcher the car, they cut all the cables, and sell it on the black market. So bolt down your Prius battery.
I think, which brings up a really legitimate question, though. There was a thread on Prius Chat about this as well. I mean, is there anything that an owner can reasonably do to protect?
About the only thing would be to replace the bolts with tamper-proof bolts that hold the battery in the car, and hopefully the thieves don't have the appropriate tool to remove them, and then maybe put a sign on the window that says this car has tamper-proof bolts and is wired up to electrocute you if you mess with the battery.
There's a new item for Prius Chat. Shop right there.
Battery booby traps.
The battery taser.
And then turn your dash cam on, right, and let it record.
Well, and one thing that's quite funny is the battery is probably the most desirable used part on a Prius, and there's no VIN on the battery, yet they put a VIN stamp on the engine and transmission, but there's no demand for the engine or transmission. So if someone steals a battery, it's very hard to trace it back to the car that it came from. So Toyota, you should put the VINs on the batteries.
This is something you talked about at To-Go before this year, right? With the
you're just a whore, aren't you?
A bit of a branding
I think that was a perfect segue. Thank you. ToGoBefore.com.
The annual pre.
But yeah, there's no way to know the battery that you have or is in your car was in the car from the factory.
Right.
And actually, I got a call today. He's, some used car dealer bought a car at the car auction, and the battery is toast, and the car has 60,000 miles on it. And I said, well, it sounds like someone switched the battery with a 200,000 mile battery and then sent the car to the dealer auction, and you basically got hosed. And there's nothing you can do about it. There's no easy way to check, and people just have to roll the dice in a situation like that.
Wow.
So
that's scary.
This is, honestly, it takes, like, I've never honestly tried to switch out my battery or take out my battery for any reason. So it's like a 4-minute process?
If you have done it a few times and you don't care about maintaining the car properly, like i.e. unhooking the wires, they just cut them, and it's very fast. I have a video.
I want to know why my dealer charged me so much money then.
Yeah. Well, and we have a video on YouTube under Boulder Hybrids of us removing a Gen 2 battery in less than 10 minutes the correct way.
Wow.
Now,
how much longer does it really take to unhook the cables?
It would take a couple more minutes, but as a thief, you don't care. You just cut wires. Just like when they used to steal radios, they would just hack the dash to get the radio out. And,
are they just Rolex?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Lush's Garage in San Francisco, they've seen a number of cars come in, and it ends up being a lot more than the battery. It's probably $6,000 to $8,000 worth of damage by the time they have to replace all the wiring harnesses. Usually windows involved. It's nasty what these guys do. They're just animals coming in and ripping out the batteries.
So the other question I have is, do we have any idea how widespread this is? There's there's the Prius Chat thread. There's this news article about the theft in Queens.
Now that we've had it here, it's going to go nationwide, man. Everyone's going to be like, "That's a great idea," and I heard it on.
It's all talk about it. I just don't want to spread the the FUD and go, "Oh, great,"
I'm sure it's small. It's probably in the tens or dozens at this point. But as more and more cars get old and need hybrid batteries, and the new battery is typically over $3,000 at the dealer, people say, if I can find one that's cheaper, and then of course there's a market of people who will acquire those batteries and sell them to those people. And It's unfortunate, but a couple things Toyota should have done better as far as VINing every part of the battery, having a registry. But it is what it is. Hopefully, it won't become widespread.
Does the plug-in have the VIN on it and stuff?
I don't believe so, but the plug-in battery is much harder to pull, and there's very little demand for it because it only would fit in other plug-ins. So what people are doing is they're targeting.
Danny, you're safe.
It appears people are targeting the Gen 3 Prius because they're young batteries, and then repurposing them into Gen 2s, and that way they get a lowish mileage battery in their Gen 2, and they actually basically probably disassemble it and just move over the modules.
Paul, do you have any idea, or actually anyone, does anybody have any idea, how long before we start seeing third-party batteries?
There are a couple of Chinese companies that have made prototypes of the modules that fit in a Prius, but I have not seen any work yet. Wow. And the wild card there is they may come out with a battery, but then Toyota and Panasonic could just drop the price in half and put them out of business. So, and I'm a little weary of Chinese batteries that look like Prius batteries until I see them work and someone tests them thoroughly.
So to bring this to our EV listeners, Paul, you have a little bit of experience taking a battery out of a Leaf, at least, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's is the process like in the future? Do those owners have anything to worry about?
It's a little harder in the Leaf. The Leaf, the battery pack is about 500 pounds, and it takes up the whole belly of the car. You basically have to lift the car in the air and lower the battery down. So it's not something someone's going to do on the side of the road. Where the Prius battery weighs under 100 pounds, and a reasonably strong person can just rip it out. If they have two people, it's very easy to pull out of the car. So the Leaf owners don't have to worry. Tesla battery weighs even more. I'm not sure the weight, but I'm sure it's over 1,000 pounds. So those people are fine.
You could just set up a fake Tesla battery swap station. Have people drive in, take their battery, give them, a couple AA's and shove them out, see how far they get.
Yeah.
Actually, they get like a mile down the road. The guy comes walking back 2 hours later. The shop's closed.
Yeah.
Snow cone stand.
Yeah, that's a great scam.
I love that idea. It's a really interesting point that you brought up, Paul, about that as soon as a third party comes out with one, then Panasonic can just, dump the price,
yeah,
and all of a sudden they're out of. So maybe we need a Kickstarter project to urge Toyota and Panasonic to drop the price of the battery pack.
Right.
Yeah, you don't even need to be successful. Just make a few to scare them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Marketed as, we're going to build the $800 Prius battery pack.
That's actually not a bad idea, Russ.
Look for it on Indiegogo next week.
When I saw this story, I thought they were stealing starter batteries when it said they were able to take it out so fast. I was like, oh, that can't be the actual traction pack. There's no way they could get that so quick.
If you have wire cutters and a power driver, you can get it out pretty fast. I mean, they do have to break a window to open up the car, but
that's not common, is it?
If you're going to steal $4,000 worth of stuff,
I mean, you think about in the old days, thieves used to steal radios out of cars for $100. Well, they can steal a hybrid battery and sell it probably on the black market for $800 to $1,000 for about the same amount of time of work. So,
wow,
if you were an industrious thief, you'd probably go after the hybrid batteries.
And obviously, we can't retrofit this, but and one obviously easy strategy to defeat this is to put some sort of VIN number on it or some sort of identification that could be trackable, right?
Well, that assumes someone's going to look at the VIN number. A lot of these nefarious shops that would install it, or the owners of the car, they're not going to care where it came from. It's like you buy a bicycle on Craigslist. It has a VIN on it, but how do you verify where it came from?
Right.
So without naming any names, Paul, in these areas where it seems to be happening so far, are there any shops that you know of that would participate in part of this scheme?
Only in repairing the cars. I mean, as far as where the batteries are being sold to, who's buying them, I have no idea where they're going to. I mean, they might even be going to taxi cabs. Taxi cabs, all have 1 billion miles on them. They need batteries sooner than other cars. Maybe some flaky taxi operators are buying the batteries, and they put word out on the street, hey, I'll buy as many as you can get me.
Right.
But I have no proof of that.
Hard. To go from like a chop shop in Brooklyn to,
right.
Some cab
To
station.
Brooklyn.
Yeah.
In taxi.
Just walk the thing over. Hey, got some batteries. And, you're right. The relative value compared to stereos is insane.
Right. When they used to steal catalytic
taking
converters.
Right. For the platinum?
Yeah, but out of pickup trucks where they could just roll under with a Sawzall and zip it off.
Hey,
the
let's
Prius
back
catalytic converter is worth a lot, but it's hard to get to without
Isn't
raising the car.
In a fuel cell, wouldn't people be stealing them out of Mirais?
Are we going to find another way to pick on the Mirai?
Poor thing.
I was trying.
Well, let's find another way to pick on Toyota, though.
Hey, if only there was one other thing.
If only there's always another way. This week, unfortunately, and Toyota is not really known for announcing years in advance what they're planning on doing, but other automotive manufacturers have come out and voiced their support for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, such as Hyundai, Ford, which Ford would include like Lincoln and the 10 other companies that Ford has spawned off into at this point. But Toyota has said that they have no plans to offer vehicles with the feature.
It's pretty lame.
Very lame.
And let me tell you, as a huge Prius enthusiast and supporter, I was frankly strongly anticipating that the Prius would kind of lead that charge for them into what their next step of infotainment systems was going to be, and I was hoping that they would have a kick-ass system that would be Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatible, because it just makes sense for the Prius to have that. And if the Prius is just going to get some lame Intune system, I think it's really going to hurt them amongst the people who were going to the Prius because it still had some tech features that they wanted, but had the reliability of a hybrid instead of jumping feet first into an EV or into a plug-in like the Volt.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, half of the Prius buyers are tech heads, geek heads, and if they have some lame Toyota user interface, they're not going to want the car. I mean, it's going to really hurt their sales.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine if the new Prius comes with the 2004 navigation user interface?
Yeah, if they're not going to do that with the Prius, where are they going to roll out these new high-tech features that will attract people? All 6 people to drive one will be happy with it, but
the bold new Camry. Oh, sorry. I mean, it's sad when when my kid's brand new Corolla infotainment system smokes my 2012 Prius. Now, granted, there's a few years difference, but it's like, it's sad. It's sad that Toyota wouldn't. I can't imagine how they're going to fix Intune. Because I don't think there's probably anyone on this panel that's used Intune that thinks it's a working system.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Says the plug-in owner. I mean, do you use your Intune?
No. I hate it.
Have you ever used Intune?
He doesn't have one that has it.
No? Oh, I guess all of his stuff is older.
Yeah.
Paul, I don't. I mean, I think you're driving like a second gen. So.
Yeah, I have a first gens and second gens, but they all have awful radios in them.
Yeah, well, there's that too. Yeah. It just seems like such a black eye for them. they've worked really hard to make the Prius a technology leader, and then to ignore the two biggest smartphone systems and just go, we're going to figure something else out because our stuff works.
We think ours works better.
Yeah. So it's like,
it's sad. Even General Motors, almost every GM car now ships with a Wi-Fi hotspot from the factory, and Toyota has nothing even like that.
Evan, let me get your thoughts as a Tesla owner. Are you happy with what Tesla's doing from an infotainment system? I mean, I know that the system in general is really nice, but could the interface be helped out if it was tied into Apple CarPlay? And if the X doesn't have that, is that something that would affect you at all?
Evan's speechless.
Evan, we can't hear you, buddy.
Yeah, sorry, Evan.
Well, we'll try to get Evan back chatting with us.
Uh-oh.
Oh, he fell on the ground.
He just vaporized.
I said this last week, but what would be really cool is if they just had a system that could do screen mirroring. So when my phone came in, it appeared there in the car. Mm-hmm. That would be great. And you'd have to have a nice high-res touchscreen, multi-touch to do it instead of the crappy touchscreens that are in a lot of cars.
Well, and I think that's going to be one of the things that's going to be interesting when the first cars hit with CarPlay and Android Auto is to find out, were the car companies smart enough to put a good processor in it, put a nice screen in it with multi-touch, and or are they literally just putting a nice interface on top of a really poor piece of hardware?
Yeah, but the touchscreen won't work if the car's moving.
You're probably right.
The lawyers.
It'd be very Toyota of them.
And that's kind of the weird thing, to me, is that this is anywhere between $300 and $500, but the crappy, horrible, non-multi-touch panel in my Prius is minimum of $1,500, $2,000 $3,000 if you want nav.
Yeah, that's pathetic. Yeah, when I can buy a smartwatch that has better resolution, that's just sad.
Right. Oh, and it's gorgeous, and it works. And guess what? This gets software updates.
Yeah.
That's one of my biggest complaints about.
I mean, heck, if Toyota said it's $1,000 for a dock on the dash to put in your iPad or Android tablet, people would probably pay it just to not have crappy factory stuff.
Yep. But somebody's cousin works at Denso, and we've got to keep them going. That's probably not true.
Evan, can we hear you yet? I see you're back with us. Nope, still nothing.
No audio.
Evan.
Well, maybe.
All right, can you hear me now?
There we go. Yeah.
Hey.
And it's not wonky?
Nope.
Nope.
All right. I don't know.
Minimally wonky.
All right. Well, I'm here. So anyway, to answer your question about the Model X, no, I don't think it'd make a big difference because they offer so much other stuff that I could live without the iPod Play, CarPlay, whatever. But it'd certainly be nice to have, and I'd look for it. But we've got a whole lot of options already built into what Tesla offers for their interface.
Okay. So there we have it. The Tesla expert has spoken.
I was thinking about that too. It's like I think the people at this point in the buyer curve who are buying the Model S and the Model X aren't as critical as the people that are looking at maybe a fourth-gen Prius. You know what I mean? Two very buyers.
Yeah, well, are you talking premium buyers versus just Joe Blow buyer?
Well, I mean, in the Model X and in the Model S, you have something that is very, very unique. Hybrid cars in 2015 aren't that special anymore. You know? So the lack of that bleeding edge technology makes a big difference. The whole thing with the Model X, with the Tesla stuff, is that it's bleeding edge, from the ground up.
You know how I know it's bleeding edge? Because of the photo that Evan posted of the What Drives This podcast playing through TuneIn.
Good point.
That's how I knew that the Tesla had arrived.
I was going to say, I don't, perhaps it's just my ignorance, but I just don't even know what the CarPlay and all that would necessarily add to what the S and presumably the X will be capable of doing. I can already either Bluetooth or USB connect my iPhone and play whatever it does. I've already got 3G connectivity, so I can listen to TuneIn or Slacker. I've pay for a subscription for XM, and I've got regular AM, FM, XM. I can already see my calendar through the touchscreen display that automatically pops up every time I get in the car. So I'm not. I guess I don't know enough to know what I would be missing out on.
Given that feature set, I don't know either. I think you've probably got most of the basic stuff covered, but you're already better off than most, again, just because we're talking about Toyota, most Prius owners.
The only defense I can make for Toyota is, what is Google and Apple's roadmap for Evan has a 10-year-old second-gen Prius. Let's say that the second-gen Prius has Apple CarPlay built into it. What is his phone able to do today, 10 years later, that it wasn't able to do 10 years ago? And what is that hardware not able to do that his phone can now do? And can the two still properly mesh together to provide the services that it originally was able to provide? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think. Though I don't know, can you? It's so hard to predict technology 10+ years in the future, and to make it fully compatible, anticipating 10 years. I'm not sure CarPlay or anything else is going to be able to do that necessarily.
Right. They
probably not. They should just have a standard interface and a standard size opening in the dash, and whatever device comes out plugs in.
So you're going to have a micro USB or a 30-pin or a lightning connector or
Thunderbolt
or USB Type
Firewire. Firewire is the way to go.
No, just zip drives of MP3s.
SCSI.
Fine.
It's all SCSI, baby.
SCSI, baby.
I want something with a lot of pins and a couple of locking dinguses at each end.
Well, we talked about it last week, and here we are again this week. We can't avoid the Apple EV talk or car talk or however you want to put it. But apparently, Apple has been poaching. These are A123 words. Apple has been poaching their talent from the manufacturer A123. I don't think it's poaching when a company is in bankruptcy and the smart people are jumping ship.
I was just going to say, you're talking about the rats leaving the sinking ship being poached. Is that the deal?
And they're suing because, in my estimation at least, they see a $700 billion target that might be willing to quickly settle something instead of having bad publicity.
Sure. I mean, who's got deeper pockets than Apple right now?
So let's take it away from A123 because I think we can all agree that's a crappy example. But Apple's been allegedly poaching from Tesla as well, offering them ridiculous bonuses and double salary that they're getting at Tesla.
Do we have that confirmed by anyone?
Yeah, Elon actually did, and I don't have a link handy for you, but I can try to find it.
Nope.
Yeah, they said they were offering $250,000 signing bonuses and a 60% salary bump is the story that I read.
Wow.
But I still don't see a lawsuit there.
Right.
Offering people more pay,
No.
bonuses, and a better job. Hey, free market. That's what that's called.
Yeah, agree.
Unless they're your slaves. Hey, we don't do that in America anymore.
Unless you're in a right-to-work state, and then, maybe a little bit.
But the only concern is IP. Like if you were a Tesla engineer and you sign a contract that whatever you developed is property of Tesla, and then you go over to Apple and say, hey, I did this at Tesla, let's use it, that could open up a can of worms with the lawyers.
Absolutely. But then you have to prove that they are taking specific knowledge that company owns and using it at a competitor, and then you have a lawsuit.
Right.
But going from one company to another and using your expertise in an area is absolutely, well, I mean, it's Silicon Valley. People job hop all the time.
Right.
I thought this was the
Ford
company.
engineers go work for GM and for Honda and everything else.
Absolutely. I thought Tesla was the company that put all its patents out for free use. So what IP could they be protecting?
All the IP they are.
Tesla's not suing them.
Right.
Right.
I'm just, putting it out there like, so what's the problem here? I mean, this is just a free flow of ideas, right? And Elon should be glad that somebody's willing to pay them stupid money.
And it's sad, but before this article, I didn't know A123 was actually, still even had employees.
I was the same.
Yeah, I thought they were gone.
Yeah.
Maybe making drill batteries or something still. I kind of went through this, arc of different feelings about this because I came out last week and I said there's no way Apple's making a car. And since then, in the days that followed that show, more than a few people said, no, Apple's really making a car. Bloomberg's come in and Apple watcher John Gruber's, kind of plopped down on the side that, well, maybe where there's smoke, there's fire. I don't think anybody has any tangible evidence that we're going to see an Apple car. And you know what? So I'm going to double down this week and go, I still don't think this is about an Apple car. I think this is about something else.
It's probably one of 50 side projects Apple has in their sandbox with just spend some cash, engineers go play. And maybe something will come out of it. Maybe they're just playing around.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like they're either going to make something for the consumer or they're going to make something that they can sell to manufacturers. But making an entire vehicle, there's so many bad reasons for them or good reasons for them not to do it.
Well, you have a retail channel to sell them in.
Just drive it right out of the mall.
Right out of the mall. Tesla's trying to be like an Apple store. Well, Apple Store could just put the cars in the store.
Right.
Apple wants to be the next Apple instead of Tesla being the next Apple?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the reasons for them not to. 9 to 5 Mac put together an opinion piece, which I'm glad they clarified it as opinion piece, on the top 5 reasons why Apple will make an Apple car. And I'm going to run through these for you. Number 1 is Apple's actually thinking different. That's a very generic way of saying that. Number 2, the auto industry is ripe for disruption. And that seems to be the number 1 thing that I keep seeing people say in various articles, is that the auto industry is tepid and it's ripe for this sort of incomer. I really don't think it is, though.
Oh, I do.
If you were going to do something different, you don't sell cars to people. You instead make autonomous cars and put them out there as a service.
Evan, you disagreed with me?
Yeah, I disagree. I'd love to see Apple's kind of money behind in the auto, fighting the auto industry's lobbies for direct-to-consumer sales and changing the whole model of the way that we sell through the dealers right now. Tesla's fighting the good fight, but they don't have the kind of money Apple's got to deal head-to-head with the Auto Dealer Association.
Well, and I 1,000% agree with you on that. I just don't know if disruption is the right word. I mean,
it's definitely an overused term, but look, I think if you can change the entire model of the way cars are sold to the general public by cutting out an unnecessary, annoying middleman that nobody wants to deal with, I think that's pretty freaking disruptive.
Okay.
Even the Koch brothers.
I mean, to some extent, that's what Tesla's done. I mean, they basically threw away the legacy stuff and said, let's build a new car, let's build it in Silicon Valley, and have our own distribution channel.
Right, but it's such a small scale for currently what Tesla's doing versus what Apple's capable of launching.
Here's the reason why that's a really nice argument, but I don't think it holds a lot of water. With the phone, with the iPod, Apple made a disruptive product that was already on the market, but theirs was a significantly different type of that product. That a fairly, I understand this is a subjective opinion, but fairly reasonable statement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, maybe the Apple car will be like a Jetsons car. It will go.
Here's the thing. Unless Apple has some technology that we don't have, that we don't know about, and I don't think that's a reasonable supposition to make at this point. What are they going to do to the EV, for instance, that's going to make it better than what Tesla's doing or what anybody else is doing? That's going to be a game changer, a disruptive product.
Powered by hydrogen.
Built by hand.
With a giant iPad in the center of the dash.
Okay, so that's my whole. I don't think this particular product line is ready for that disruption from Apple.
Well, and does Apple ever make? Would Apple ever make cars on such a scale that it would actually be disruptive? I mean, we don't know what the Apple Watch is going to be priced at yet. We don't know how that's going to do in the marketplace.
I do.
I know you do, and that's a different podcast, Russ.
Yeah, exactly.
But if Apple made a car, I would assume they wouldn't make a $30,000 car.
No,
No.
Joni Ive has expressed his great love for all the high-end vehicles of the world, and I would assume that's where Apple would want to place their car, even if it's a damn minivan.
Yeah, I don't know about that either. It's going to look like a little Bentley. I think it should go on with the list, but I got problems with the disruption concept. I don't think Apple has that technology. I don't know that anybody has that technology right now. Toyota thinks they do with hydrogen. Cheers to them, whatever. We'll see.
Well, number 3 is the center stack is a mess, and that's something we've already talked about with Android Auto and Google or Apple CarPlay. Number 4 is electric cars have created an opening. I actually agree with that one. I mean, I think that because we have a new type of vehicle, then it creates like a reason for us to have newcomers to the industry.
I think this is that's really just sort of restating number 2.
These are all probably restating everything. This is not my list, just to be clear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Number 5 is autonomous vehicles match Apple's simplifying and quality of life philosophies.
No.
In case you didn't know, this was on a Mac site.
Just effing leave off the autonomous crap for a while. I don't get me wrong. I think down the line, I think it's awesome technology. It's going to save lives. It's going to make people's lives better. I get it. But this is something that is just heinously difficult. And you're not going to launch a new car, a new disruptive car, a brand new type of car sold a different way. Oh, and it's going to drive itself.
I think you have to come to market with something that provocative or interesting to if you really want to. They're not coming out with this next year. It's going to be something they're working on for a long time.
2020, according to Bloomberg.
And you know how those optimistic schedules always are. So, okay,
right.
2025, maybe they'll actually come out with something.
Right.
Well, and what'll be interesting is the juxtaposition between. I think the autonomous thing is real. I think that's the only way Apple goes into this is if it's an autonomous type of vehicle.
Right, now you don't have a center console, you have an iPad in front of every person instead of a steering wheel.
Well, and then you can buy apps while you're riding in your car somewhere, right?
Exactly.
But the juxtaposition between like an Apple autonomous vehicle, which would be like, a $250,000 car, versus what Google's trying to do with an autonomous vehicle that they're supposedly looking for a manufacturer for, which would be like a lower end, a car for the every person. So that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Bloomberg says 2020, so yeah, I'm kind of with Pat. If it happens, it's actually going to be 2025.
I mean, somebody made an interesting point that Apple has the cash to basically buy Ford and GM to build this car if they wanted to. Which, when you think about it in those terms, I'm sorry.
Why would you want to buy Ford and GM?
Right. Well, exactly. Right. No. But I mean, it's an interesting sort of like use of scale. You know what I mean? Because to get the idea that, yeah, these guys this is a big manufacturing company. You know what I mean? They're not making transistor radios.
Right.
Well, and speaking of skeptics, we got Dan Akerson this past week, or I guess a couple of weeks ago, last week, who's the retired CEO of GM, came out and basically said that, if I was an Apple shareholder, I wouldn't be very happy, is what he says. He said, I would be highly suspect of the long-term prospect of getting into a low-margin, heavy manufacturing business. And I totally agree with that. That's another reason this doesn't fit under the Apple profile. Because you can't do this in China and have the stuff just shipped in containers over here. Well, I mean, you can, but it doesn't make as much sense. Like sometimes when you buy stuff from Apple, they are literally. I've gotten stuff from Apple via two-day air from China
yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can't do that with a car, so it messes up their entire. At least in my opinion, it messes up.
Maybe they're working on the Apple plane that can hold 300 cars.
The one thing I'll say in there, Apple's supply chain management, Apple's manufacturing and production expertise, probably could go a long way towards building a better vehicle.
They don't manufacture anything.
Got 3 million Foxconn employees.
But do you have any question that? Do you really think that Apple just like sends Foxconn blueprints and then they just wait for the containers to arrive? They manage.
They send them a PDF.
Yeah, they manage every bit of it. Believe me.
I know.
Instead of a Google Doc.
Right. So it's like the employees aren't wearing Apple T-shirts, but whatever.
But I'm saying they don't have 13 people making 3 cars a day.
No.
They're not at that level of expertise.
So this is exactly why they shouldn't go buy Ford or GM, because they would get guys like this that just assume they're going to continue to do things the way they have always done it, and then they say, of course this isn't a great business model. He has no clue what they're going to do. They're obviously not going to do it the same way he was.
No, absolutely, Patrick. We're talking about the CEO that oversaw GM immediately before they had to recall like 12 million cars or something.
Right.
Yeah,
the Volt has been the only.
Yeah, so I don't see where he has any credibility to tell Apple how to run their business.
Hold on.
Well, he does know a little bit about the difficulty of manufacturing cars.
I could say something snarky here, but I'm not gonna.
Oh, come on.
Oh, Russell, you're going soft on us.
Aside from the Volt, what difficult car has Chevy made?
Not difficult cars, but just the difficulty in general of
ignition
that industry.
Have you ever seen an Impala? Or a Malibu?
Yeah, the Impala is the best rated Consumer Reports large sedan.
Is it really?
It is.
Wow.
And Buick is, I think they said like 85% of Buick vehicles right now are in their recommended list. So it's the golden age of American manufacturing.
It's the golden age of Consumer Reports readers.
And Buick's a very desirable brand in China.
That's right. I forgot. Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because speaking of China, isn't Jaguar owned by China now? By a Chinese company?
India, isn't it?
Yeah, Tata, I think.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I screwed up that segue, but still, we are segueing, and we're segueing over to the electric Jaguar. So Jaguar is, or should I call it Jaguar?
Jaguar.
Jaguar
is following the luxury path that's been set before it, and they're going to make a battery-powered version of their F-Pace crossover, supposedly by 2018, which, as we all know, probably means, what, 2022?
No, right?
Who knows? I mean, Tata's been playing around with little tiny EVs for years. You know, it's not like they don't have that. They haven't been fiddling around with this
No,
technology.
they have the air car.
Well, and the air car, and yeah, there's probably one that's hydraulically operated as well, with crank and.
You know, it's interesting that Jaguar's doing this because they are the car. I get, what is it, the F-Type? I think I always get confused with that and the Model S when I see those on the road.
Mm.
Seems like the tail end of the F-Type looks just like a
it's a
Tesla now.
Is it the XF?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, the XF looks a lot like it, but it's smaller. But similar body design. But yeah, you know, but everybody's dipping their toe in the EV pond here, and they, other than Toyota, because they don't want to get behind. You know, I think everybody has a sense that the industry may be headed that direction, other than Toyota.
I think the title of the show is going to be "Beating Up on Toyota."
Well,
Only because they've earned it.
How much of these also are just continued?
Compliance.
What's the word?
Compliance
Cars.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't think I don't think Jaguar needs to build a compliance car, do they? I thought that was only like the 3 or 4 top manufacturers or something.
You don't have to sell like 30,000 cars or something before you have to do compliance cars.
Yeah, I think so.
They
point.
did list that as one of the reasons in here.
Yeah,
The top 2 reasons to be pure electric are for the zero emission legislation for California and 7 other states. But,
Right.
But yeah, you're right. I don't know when that cutoff happens.
it doesn't say that, but it does look like that's more and more of an issue. And you know, honestly, do you have to be like a prophet to think going forward that the more zero emission vehicles you make, you're probably going to get some benefit from?
Right.
You can sell credits.
There you go.
So.
On this weird black market for credits that don't exist.
Yo, dude, I got your carbon credits right here.
It's like
I traded some hybrid batteries.
Yeah, I got a stolen hybrid battery or an EV credit. Which would you like?
Oh man, I got it all, and I got you some used Relax watches.
Well, let's see if there's any questions or comments for this week's show. One of them, Water Region Voltec is the name, from Ontario, Canada, said, I guess while we were talking about Apple CarPlay, said Apple CarPlay will be just a projection screen of your iPhone, therefore all upgrades to your iPhone will just be projected to the CarPlay. My only concern about that is more GPU power than anything else. You know, like the GPU, there's got to be GPU built into the head unit, right? And if you have apps that evolve to use more GPU in the future, isn't that where the bottleneck would be? Or am I thinking incorrectly?
No, I mean, I think what you're looking at is, you know, that 2007 iPhone was great in 2007, but in 2015, it's not so cool, and that's 8 years. Well, people keep cars these days 10, 11 years on average, isn't it?
Yep.
So the problem of it not being upgradable, again, building all this crap into the dash is the problem. It needs to be, what they really need to make is a great modular interface, and I know I'm getting kind of into a rat hole here, and stop trying to put the hardware in the dash because of the way people use the product. They buy the cars, they keep them for 10 years. Technology's upgrading a lot faster, so what do? I mean, you drag your heels and piss off your customers, or you give them a way to upgrade it reasonably. Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
You know, I'm.
No, I think that we should look to get somebody from somewhere that has more expertise about these products than we do to answer some of these questions. 'Cause I think they're really important talking points, discussion points.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
John Breiling, apologies if I destroyed your name. John asked, any guesstimate when Tesla will accept deposits for the Model 3? Sometime in 2015?
I think that's probably a good guess. I would bet late 15, since the focus is going to be on ramping up and rolling out the X in the early half of 2015. Or 20, did you say 15? I'm thinking 16.
15.
Oh, I think 16. I think mid to late 16.
And when do you think the car will actually hit showrooms, so to speak?
Tesla time or real time?
Real time. Not in the weird time warp.
Probably they'll put out a few token samples to early buyers in late 17.
Before the Apple car hits.
Before the Apple car.
Got to get out before that Apple car comes.
You know, by then the Gigafactory should be hopefully up and running and able to produce the number of batteries that they need, and hopefully they'll have advanced a little bit on the early production models. So I think we may see some in late 17, but real buyers not till 18.
All right.
I think that's a very positive outlook.
You may be right.
Yeah, I'm not criticizing it at all, Evan. I think you're probably close to right, but it just, what Tesla is doing is very easy to underestimate. It's very easy to just kind of gloss it over and go, it's just a new product. They're always late. It's an incredibly fiendishly difficult, complex product, and I think they've done very well doing what they have. Well,
and to take the Model 3, you're trying to move from, what 26,000 they put out last year Model S's to trying to crank up to hundreds of thousands in a year. That's a really freaking big step.
They're not going to do that first year, though.
There's a long waiting list for that one.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Well, I guess all we can come away from this show with is that it'll be an interesting 10 years. So keep tuned to What Drives Us. We will keep you on the cusp of the latest news over the next 10 years. Hell, they've done it for 5 now, so that's pretty unbelievable to me.
We should archive this and come back in 2020 and see what really happens.
Come back and laugh at ourselves? What are we thinking?
We need to go back to the Tesla. I think the day of the stock launched, we had a show, and I remember some of us, well, me at least, saying $40 that's a little overpriced. I'm gonna wait for it to drop a little bit, and then I'll jump in on it.
Well, did you? Because it did drop. It went down to 16 something, which is I got it at 17.
Yeah. Do you still have it?
Oh yeah.
Or did you sell it at 280? Nice. Jerk.
I didn't buy very much. Stupid.
About 2 shares.
Yeah. I only buy a few shares when I buy individual stocks. I mostly, if I want to invest, I buy mutual funds, and I just play with individual. And here's one where I should have done more than play.
You should have bought 2 hybrid batteries worth.
Exactly. Now I would have enough to buy another if I don't.
I think anytime on the show I talk about money, I'm going to refer to it in stolen hybrid batteries worth.
That will be the new metric for What Drives Us.
Exactly. Well, thanks for the questions and the comments on the Q&A and on our Google Plus page. Tom Stengel actually posted a couple good comments about the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto stuff, talking about resolution changes in the car and in the phone and stuff like that. And yeah, I think all those are well worth discussing. And I think we should work on getting somebody to come on the show and talk with us about it. Yeah, you work on that, Mr. Frost.
I'll work on that.
Yes. Well, I think that does it for the show this week. Let's start with some shout-outs, some plugs. Let's start with Mr. Paul Guzik, who looks very comfortable in his shop there.
Does.
Nothing really special this week. Just keep on driving your hybrids.
Oh, what's your URL?
Oh, my URL, boulderhc.com for anybody in Colorado or driving distance to Colorado.
There you go. Exactly.
And if you're within the driving distance, you definitely should go see Paul with your hybrid car.
Absolutely.
Evan Fusco.
Hey, no major shout-outs. I guess I've been giving shout-outs to the TeslaMotorsClub.com that I frequent more recently on my Tesla stuff. But and then, of course, good old PriusChat.com. You can't leave that out.
Good stuff, buddy. Pat?
Well, Tony's not here to look at our Facebook page for us, so I'll do that for you if you want. We have one new person who liked us yesterday, Per Balbaev. I hope I'm saying that close enough. Thanks for liking our page, and that's at facebook.com/whatdrivesus. And I'm Patrick from the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org. That's it.
Okay. From my perspective, I just want to let everybody know about Prius Chat, and if you're a Prius owner and want to check out a fantastic annual event that we do, I'm showing it on video right now. I've got the To Go Before t-shirt on. Every year, Russell and I, or for the last 2 years, we've been putting on a little Prius get-together, and it's a really good time. Last year, we were lucky enough to have Evan and Tony and Paul all do sessions that we have on video and that we'll edit and put up very soon, so you can see what you would be missing. But it's a great time to socialize with other Prius owners, and if you're not a Prius owner, it's a good time just to meet other people who are, in the similar like-minded, have like-minded interests as you. And we always make sure it's a good time.
It was a good time.
Russell?
Don't you want to talk about the Prius Chat shop?
I'd love to talk about the Prius Chat shop. Check out priuschat.com/shop and buy some stuff and feed my kids.
There's going to be some new stickers. You can't steal these batteries. Don't try.
Yes.
We'll be electrocuted.
We may have some new anti-theft, a new anti-theft category soon.
I like that. I like the idea. We design a really cool, electrocuted guy thing. I mean, can you get in trouble for threatening something that you can't actually follow through on?
We'll find out.
Yeah. Good point.
That's still assault.
So let's see. My plugs this week: togobefore.com that Danny just mentioned. Please stop in and visit us there. Don't forget to stop by Facebook and see us at facebook.com/whatdrivesus, all one word. And drop comments and questions there. We pull our news from there, so maybe we'll talk about something you mentioned. Let's see what else. You know what? Just because I haven't said it in a long time, thanks Bob Heil for my great microphones. I love Heil microphones. I also wanted to say I know that since we've come back, some of our panelists have tried and jockeying around, getting here. Linda, Justin, to name two, which we expect to have them back on. Chelsea was on the road last week. She'll hopefully be back soon. So hello to all of our panelists that aren't with us this weekend, as well as saying thank you from me to Paul, Evan, Patrick. I'm sorry, what's the other guy's name? I can't read the thing. Something Cooper.
Donald?
Tom.
And then I'm gonna shut up. Thanks, Tim.
As far as the show goes, you can check us out at whatdrives.us. You can listen to all of our podcasts. You can subscribe to our podcast through iTunes, through Stitcher, through TuneIn, Slacker. Yeah, so there's lots of different ways that you can listen to the show now. We're very proud of that. You can listen to all the episodes. It's always fun to go back and start listening to them. It definitely kills a few hours.
Wait, you're in Slacker?
Is that what's... No, I think it was Stitcher is what I meant.
Stitcher? Oh, sorry, I said that. For some reason, I thought we were.
Okay.
But we're on at least
I didn't
one
know they did podcasts.
service.
Because I can get Slacker in the Tesla too.
Oh, enough with your Tesla.
Have I mentioned I drive a Tesla?
You drive a Gen 2 Prius, right?
Yeah. See, now there's the picture I need to put up next week, though, is I've got these permit driver stickers taped onto the back with purple painter's tape. It's just hideous.
You embarrass your sons.
I was going to say, is this solely for the embarrassment of your children?
Oh, it's so people won't shoot me and get road rage.
Well, all those
Oh, God.
glass, didn't they?
What's that?
I thought all the second gens had bulletproof glass.
Oh, my God. I need it. Oh, you haven't seen my kids drive.
Oh, no. Well,
So, anyway, you can check us out at whatdrives.us. We'd love to have you join us Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific at our Google Plus page where we do our live streaming. It's also available over on YouTube. You can subscribe to us on YouTube as well, and every week when the video goes up, you'll get notified of that. Whew. I think that's it, Russell.
If you have a question or comment, call us at 575-51-DRIVE. That's 575-51-DRIVE. Thank you to Michael Mannering for our theme music. You can visit him at manthing.com. And I'll turn it back over to Mr. Cooper for the final word.
And thank you to Austin Kinzer for keeping us from kicking puppies this week.
Thank you, Austin.
He left us a voicemail, which we won't play this week, but maybe we will one day when we need a laugh, because it was a good voicemail. Well, thanks for listening. You can catch us next week and find out what drives us.